welcome to episode 1 of the Photo Trend. So, the goal of the Photo Trend podcast is to bring a side of the industry that people don't really get to see. So, this is just an introduction podcast to let you guys know where we're going and when we're going to be going live, and just a little bit of the stuff that we've got kind of hidden up our sleeves. But first, before I dive into that, I'm going to introduce myself. Some of you might know me. I've taught at SPAC, Sync. I've taught at several PBAs. I'm vocal in a lot of photography online groups. I've mentored people, and I love our industry. I love our community, and that kind of led me to this podcast, because there's a side of our industry that even when we're presenting and we're at these conferences that you guys never get to see. And, labs have different sides, tech companies have different sides. There's a lot of roundtable discussions that happen that I think people would love to hear. For example, I was on the phone yesterday with a photographer for an hour and a half, and we were just talking everything. I mean, from selling digitals to, how we were going to work these jobs. And then we talked a little bit of green screen. And, that's when we were talking yesterday, and I said, you know what, we got to do this, as a podcast, and we got to get 3 of us and talking, and let people hear these conversations, because they're very educational. They're very inspiring. And I'm definitely super excited for where this podcast is going. It will launch in January of 2020. We've got an awesome lineup that I will slowly start introducing over the next few weeks. So make sure that you guys like the Photo Trend. It's the Photo Trend on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're using the hashtag the Photo Trend. Invite your friends and follow us. That way you guys aren't going to miss an episode. And we're going to definitely have some fun along the way. But first, for those of you guys who do not know me, my name is Haley Hamaker, and I'm a photographer. A self-taught photographer. I bought a camera years ago to take landscape photos, and a friend of mine was like, "Hey, can you do our family photos? You have a good camera." And I think she gave me $20 after that session. But I mean, I didn't even consider it a session at the time. And with that, that was kind of like the step in the direction of becoming a photographer. It's crazy how I think we all end up doing this. We get paid to take photos for a living and make awesome graphics and make people look good. And the things that we do are memories and keepsakes that these people are going to have for years. And it's crazy when you sit there and think what we do for a living. And one, that we actually make money doing it, but 2, that it's fun and it's exciting and it's always changing. Our deadlines are always different times. And, I'm sure, like y'all, there could be a deadline and I'm done at, 5 p.m. on the dot and I'm done. Or next thing you know, I'm up until 3 a.m. getting a job done. And that's something as business owners that we all take, and we take it personally. And we all have a very invested interest in what we do, which I love. Besides being a photographer, I am a wife to an amazing husband. And my husband does not work with me in my company. He is an owner, but we joke about it all the time. But he is an owner, but he is actually an airline pilot. So anything I'm doing is me and my crew and my assistant. That we're knocking jobs out, and we're paving the way to getting bigger and better jobs. So we'll go over just real quick a little bit about me. Like I said, I got the camera to do landscape photography. And one session led to another session, and where we live at the beach. And so beach sessions was an easy kind of layup, if you will, to getting my foot in the door. I was working with a lady who was doing beach sessions, and she started paying me to do the session she was booking, because she was booking too many of them. And looking back, I really probably had no idea what I was doing. But, it definitely gave me, the right pathway to be doing what I'm doing today. Somewhere in the beach session kind of category where I was photographing on the beach almost every night. My mother-in-law knew this photographer that was retiring, and she did all the sports teams in the area, like for the middle schools and some for the high schools. And it was more up my alley. I was an athlete in high school, and she asked me to come, like work under her. And so for the last like 2 months of her career, I shadowed her. I was putting in credit cards. I mean, we had these crazy white envelopes with just, like 3 packages on the front, credit card information. We were writing down the names of the kids as we photographed them. And then when we went back to, her in-home studio, we basically had those clear plastic bags and we were sliding them in there. And I thought the heat sealer was the coolest thing ever. It was so amazing to me that you package the photos. And, so that's where I got my first step towards doing volume, was, following her footsteps. And when she retired, I actually got some of her jobs. And then, you flash forward a little bit, and one of the best things I ever did for my business was I went to a photography conference. I had told my husband that I wanted to be better, that I wanted to learn a little bit more. And we found out that there was actually a photography conference right near me, like literally 20 minutes away. I could drive. I didn't have to go to a hotel. And it was within the week of me telling him that I wanted to be better, that I wanted to learn more. And so with that, I went to the conference. While I was there, I got a phone call that would, completely speed up my career. The photographer who normally did a league that has anywhere from 65 to 75 teams was retiring, and they wanted me to put in a bid. Had I have not gone to this conference, I could not have put in a bid. I would have had no way of doing it. It would have been a disaster. So while I was at the conference, I went up to one of the big speakers that was on the main stage, and I said, look, I've got to put in this bid. I don't know what I'm doing. And the advantage of conferences is not only did they guide me, they introduced me to a lab. And, the lab worked with me. Like, we made the bid. They handed me, their order forms. And next thing I knew how to do this job. And it was amazing. So that one conference gave me the resources and the community and a new lab. So we went from packaging envelopes on the ground into these plastic bags to literally receiving our orders completely lined up, separated by team and athlete name, ready to go. And so it was amazing. It was mind blowing. I'm pretty sure I cried the first night when this box showed up and everything was separated by team and name. And that was really the pivot point of my company and my career. The day after we photographed this league, my assistant and I could not believe that this was the way it was being done, that we had to keep track of image numbers, even though we were scanning, and that the scanners were not that reliable, and the image numbers might not be reliable, and we might not know this Landon from that Landon or this Timmy from that Timmy. And it just was not convenient. And the most inconvenient part of it all, in my opinion, was having to open these order forms and get the money out and put the credit card information into a system. It was so inconvenient that I started really trying to speed up the process of how we were doing it. So over the years, we'll be going over all this, like I said, in upcoming podcasts with different photographers. We're going to be having conversations about how I went from order forms to 100% online, to how the photo trends are changing. Your demographics of buyers are changing. Everything in this industry is changing. And, we're all trying to stay 3 steps ahead of it. But with this podcast, we have labs coming on. We have tech companies coming on. We have roundtables of photographers. We've got a couple where, we'll be sitting there and it's me and a co-host, and we're going to do rapid fire where you guys submit some questions and we're going to fire off on them. So it is going to be an amazing experience. I'm super excited about the people we've got lined up to do this. And I can't wait for January to be here. And so if you guys could take a moment, follow us online, follow all of our social media, share us out there. We are getting it going, and we'll start posting some episodes in January. And until then, if you guys need anything, message us on one of our social media sites, but you better follow us because it's going to be a fun ride. So anyways, you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you all in January.